near you.
Hey everybody, how we doing tonight? Do a quick sound check. Can y'all see me? Can y'all hear me? Fantastic. Welcome, welcome. Good to see y'all out there. I see we got a little Twisted in the house with us as usual. Roger Blair is with us. Amy, my little pretties. Amy, always good to have you in there. You always add a good voice to the conversation here. You always got some good questions and some keep some humor in it for us. Loud and clear. All right, fantastic. Well, things are a little different tonight, guys. I am not feeling very good this week. Nothing really heart related as much as is just being under the weather. So I have kind of a chop shop style presentation tonight. It's going to be kind of pretty low and low key and not as pretty as it usually is. I was having some issues with my sound equipment again. Hi, Trista Howard. Hi, Jennifer McDaniels. Welcome. Laying in bed listening with the window open, curtains blowing in the wind, and a storm rolling in Kentucky. That sounds absolutely amazing. So yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. It's going to be kind of a short show tonight. I'll do what I can. I'm just kind of tired and wore out from not feeling too good. I saw a little twist that said cool intro. Yeah, you know, Grizzly does all that for us. Everybody here on this channel is really blessed. Grizzly does what he does. He provides all that tech support. He builds the intros, puts all that stuff together for us to use, and don't charge us for it, which is pretty fantastic. Gives us a platform that we can all use to kind of get out there and see everybody. Thanks for everybody that's there. Thanks to all the people that are going to be listening later and all of our various platforms and programs that we're on. See if we wait for a few more people to come in here. See what we got going on. Thank you guys for the well wishes. Don't overdo it. I won't. I wasn't going to do a show tonight, but I didn't want to let you all down. And this one is pretty easy. Like I said, it's kind of a chop shop version, so it's not as cleaned up as it usually is. But it's going along with last week's show, kind of the Animal Anomalies. And we're going to do the Jackalope. Is anybody in the audience familiar with what a Jackalope is or what it's supposed to be? Pretty common American folklore here. Welcome, Susan F. Welcome to the show. Welcome, Arcane Paranormal World. Susan F. has seen a jackalope. Little Twisted, please be kind as you unwind and love tap that like button, y'all. Absolutely. Don't forget to like, subscribe, do the little bell so you can know whenever a show pops up here on our channel. Roger Blair's, I've heard of him. Amy, yep, a rabbit with antlers, yep. Now, did you all know that there is actually a background and a historical aspect to jackalopes? I didn't know that until I started researching. Obviously, going into it, knowing that jackalope is a mythological creature, right? But as we always say, there's always a little bit of truth in these mythos, and it's kind of fun, and it's good practice as a researcher to go through and try and dig out where that kernel of truth is. You know, I have a lot of fun with that. It hones your research skills. It kind of hones your discernment a little bit. And what I find interesting is you can find some interesting threads if you're pretty well versed in paranormal and for teen subjects. You can actually find little bitty threads of information throughout all these mythos. And I found one in the jackalope story, and I thought it'd be really interesting. I pointed out, I know there was a couple things I wanted to point out. I just got to that one, so I'll briefly mention it. But I hope you guys like it. Like I said, this is kind of the quick and dirty version. Animal Anomalies, the jackalope. All right. The jackalope is an animal of North American folklore, described as a jackrabbit with antelope horns. The word jackalope is a portmanteau of jackrabbit and antelope. I know Jennifer will know what that word means. It's basically a conglomeration of the two words put together to make one. They actually have a jackalope license, which I thought was really fun. Wyoming, kind of the center of the jackalope lore. They actually issue a license you can get. Douglas, Wyoming, Jackalope City since 1985. Little history on the jackalope. We're going to kind of go back in time, so we talk about that mythos that we were talking about. Stories or descriptions of animal hybrids have appeared in many cultures worldwide. 13th century Persian work depicts a rabbit with a single horn, like a unicorn. In Europe, the horned rabbit appeared in medieval and Renaissance folklore. In Bavaria, they called it the Wolpertinger. That one's a little different. That one also had wings and fangs. Natural history texts, such as the Historia Naturalis de Quadrupedibus Libri, the history book of natural quadrupeds by Joanne Johnstoness, or John Johnston, in the 17th century, and illustrations such as Animalia. I'm not even going to try and read that one. Basically, a bunch of the old history books, old science books they had, 17th century, had horned rabbits in them. So the jackalope technically goes back that far if we're talking, horned rabbits, horned jackrabbits, horned hares, stuff like that. Early scientific texts described and illustrated the hybrids as though they were real creatures. But by the end of the 18th century, scientists generally rejected the idea of horned hares as an actual biological species. So at one point in time, these were believed to be physical scientific creatures. In Central America, mythological references to a horned rabbit creature can be found in legends. The witchy oral tradition has passed down tales of a horned rabbit and of deer getting horns from the rabbit. The rabbit and deer were paired, though not combined as a hybrid, as day signs in the calendar of the Mesoamerican period of the Aztecs, as twins and brothers, or even as the sun and the moon. I thought that was kind of interesting. So here we have, European lore, and then we have Central American lore, all having these horned rabbits, these horned hares. And then it talks about there's association within the Mesoamerican calendar and stuff as well. So that was quite interesting. In Mythical Creatures of the North Country, 1969, historian Walker D. Wyman acknowledged the existence of what he called the alkali area jackalope of the western United States. However, he expressed doubt that it predated the jack pine jackalope of Minnesota and Wisconsin. A mythological throwback that defies even the most competent biologist of the region. Wyman claimed there were 3 known specimens of this primary jackalope: in Augusta, in west central Wisconsin, cornucopia along the south shore of Lake Superior, and in a North Shore museum and lumber camp, all shot by careless hunters during the deer season. Then a 1978 revision and expansion of his book, which includes material on the rubberado porcupine, the snallogaster, the three-tailed bavaloris, and the squonk, and many other creatures. Wyman devotes 4 pages to the jackalope. Normally I would go through and do a quick breakdown on all those, but like I said, this is kind of a chop version. In a turnabout from his earlier claims of a North Country origin for the antlered hare, he says the center of its vast range seems to be Wyoming. The jackalope can imitate the human voice, according to legend. During the days of the Old West, when cowboys gathered by the campfire singing at night, jackalopes could be heard mimicking their voices or singing along, usually as a tenor. It is said that the jackalopes, the rare Lepus antilocapras, you haven't even had a chance to go over all the words, breed only during lightning flashes, and their antlers make the act difficult despite the hare's reputation for fertility. Amy's asking the squonk. Actually, the squonk is a really fun one. It is considered so ugly, all it does is sit around and cry all the time. There is definitely a squonk festival. It's actually a really fun kind of thing to go to and have fun with. The first jackalope in America. Oh, yeah, I want to bring that point up. Okay, so notice the highlight in yellow. Jackalopes could be heard mimicking their voices or singing along. That was the thread that I picked up there. A lot of paranormal encounters or experiences include mimicking, voice mimicking, or singing, right? We hear that a lot when it comes to Bigfoot or Dogman. Things about mimicking voices, singing along. We've heard stories of, supposed Bigfoot calling the dog's name. Like all these different things, you hear paranormal, different ghosts, different things talking about using voices and calling. So I thought that was really interesting how that worked into the jackalope lore. I was not expecting that one at all. All right, the first jackalope in America was supposedly caught in 1829 by a trapper named Roy Ball. There are conflicting stories that seem to point, excuse me, to a more likely alternative, but many legends simply dictate that the origin of the American jackalope started with Ball in the early 1800s. In addition to this, when that jackalope was first stuffed, mounted, and put on display was in 1934, many tourists were told that the legend of the jackalope could be found not only in the legends of the Wild West, but also in the history of Europe and Persia. We talked about that at the very beginning, how, there's other parts of the world that have a horned hare like that. I've also got a cough drop in, guys, trying to keep the coughing down as much as I can. It was known to be considerably larger than the jackrabbit. Although you wouldn't be able to tell by simply looking at a jackalope head, the creature is reputed to be a powerful and dangerous adversary. It has been reported that the creature was extremely defensive. While it could move quickly when it was being chased, so fast that only a trail of dust could be seen behind it, the creature often preferred to face its hunters head on. The jackalope used its massive horns to attack the men who dared to hunt it, and would often leave its victims bloody and full of gouge marks. Its horns were also known to be especially sharp, which eventually inspired the recommendation to wear stovepipes over one's legs when hunting the beast. Can you imagine a group of cowboys going out trying to get themselves a jackalope and they're all wearing stovepipes on their legs as their chaps? That would be a sight. It quickly became rumored that the milk of a female jackalope contained medicinal properties that was extremely valuable and could cure most illnesses. Even for avid fans of the jackalope, however, this claim was hard to back. It was known that the jackalopes were nearly impossible to chase down, and that their defensive abilities with their horns made them a fearsome rival, and probably really hard to milk. For all its fearsome and impressive qualities, it was rumored that the jackalope could be persuaded to come to a human willingly and even be captured if they were offered their favorite drink, whiskey. Many who travel to the wilds of Wyoming in the hopes of finding and capturing the strange creature make sure to pack a bottle of the finest whiskey they can find to appease the creature. All right, the real story. So that's the lore, right? We just went over the lore, kind of where it came from, what they talk about. Abnormal Investigations, welcome to the show. Welcome, welcome. Susan F., I don't know if I welcomed you, but I see you there. Welcome. I wanted to get into the cultural part of this, right? Because as we know, somebody mentioned earlier, in one of the Lord of the Rings movies, one of the sled is pulled by jackalopes. And growing up as a kid, I know we used to watch it was America's Funniest Home Videos, and they had a jackalope character on there. It really has kind of pervaded culture. I see a lot of you on there posting, you've seen them up in different bars and restaurants and shopping centers and gas stations. So it's kind of cool how it kind of is this, I wouldn't say pervasive like Bigfoot or Dogman is, but it's there, right? Like it's kind of quietly invaded some of the culture. Welcome, Matro, welcome. All right, so what's the real story behind the jackalope? In the 1930s, Douglas Herrick and his brother, hunters with taxidermy skills, popularized the American jackalope by grafting deer antlers onto a jackrabbit carcass and selling the combination to a local hotel in Douglas, Wyoming. Thereafter, they made and sold many similar jackalopes to a retail outlet in South Dakota, and other taxidermists continued to manufacture the horned rabbits into the 21st century. Susan, we'll get to that. Susan has seen a wild one, so we'll talk. How is that possible? I'm definitely not going to call Susan a liar. So how could that be possible? And we'll discuss that here at the end as well. Stuffed and mounted jackalopes are found in many bars and other places in the United States. Stores catering to tourists sell jackalope postcards and other paraphernalia. Commercial entities in America and elsewhere have used the word jackalope or a jackalope logo as part of their marketing. Jackalope has appeared in published stories, poems, television shows, video games, and there was also a low-budget mockumentary film built on the jackalope. The Wyoming legislature has actually considered bills to make the jackalope the state's official mythological creature. The one article I read said that it keeps getting shot down, but the person putting it forth said they're going to keep putting it forth until it finally gets accepted. Great use of Wyoming taxpayer money there. Folklorists see the jackalope as one of a group of tall-tale animals known as fearsome critters, common to North American culture since the turn of the 20th century. These fabulous beasts appear in tall tales featuring hodags, giant snakes, fur-bearing trout, and many others. We had an episode on giant snakes. And that's not so much folklore, right, guys? Some such stories and legends or lend themselves to comic hoaxing, but entrepreneurs who seek attention for their own personal or their region's fortune, kind of like the hodag. That's a really fun one out of Rhinelander, Wisconsin. That's become a real popular thing. A lot of the festivals, paracons and stuff. There's a group that goes around doing the hodag. Arcane Paranormal World, hodag is my neck of the woods. All right, so you're up by Rhinelander, Wisconsin, in that general area. I know Rhinelander well. Well, used to know it well when I was a youngin'. All right, reference to horned rabbits may originate in sightings of rabbits affected by what's called the Shope papilloma virus, named for Richard E. Shope, MD, who described it in a scientific journal in 1933. Shope initially examined wild cottontail rabbits that had been shot by hunters in Iowa and later examined wild rabbits from Kansas. They had numerous horn-like protuberances on the skin and over various parts of their bodies. The animals we referred to popularly as horned or warty rabbits. The Shope papillomavirus, also known as the cottontail rabbit papillomavirus, or the Kappa papillomavirus 2, is a papillomavirus which infects certain leproids, hare family, rabbit family, causing keratinous carcinomas resembling horns, typically on or near the animal's head. The carcinomas can metastasize or become large enough to interfere with the host's ability to eat, causing starvation. Richard E. Shope investigated the horns and discovered the virus in 1933, and it was an important breakthrough in the study of oncoviruses. So essentially, it's warts. Just like we get warts on our hands, and for some people, they grow out of control. The HPV virus, human papillomavirus, same thing. Absolutely same thing. The virus was originally discovered in cottontail rabbits in the Midwest, but can also infect brush rabbits, black-tailed jackrabbits, snowshoe hares, European rabbits, and domestic rabbits. And just so you guys know, this is a picture. It's kind of grotesque. I was trying to find some that looked really good like antlers. There wasn't very many of them. But as you can see, if you're not knowing what's going on and the right type of growth, the right kind of condition, it can definitely look like an antlered hare, antlered rabbit. So, like most of the stuff that we talk about when it comes to myth and lore, right? There's a speck of truth in there. So the theory is that these critters with these warts basically are what people have been seeing for centuries and what they reported. And just like the winged cats from last week, it's a real thing, a real phenomenon. It was just misinterpreted by the people that were experiencing them. So another thing, people, like Susan said, they want to joke and laugh. It's not real. It's not real. Well, maybe the myth and lore behind it isn't real. And maybe the people's interpretation of it isn't real. But that doesn't mean the animal doesn't exist in reality. Right? And I really try and express that to a lot of people, is you have to realize the difference between real and reality and perception. Right? And when I'm doing my investigations and my research, one of the things I try and do is take away the names, take away the descriptors that are trying to be analogous, that are trying to say, hey, it looks like this, or hey, it reminds me of that, because, you know, you might say it looked like a dog, but what you think looks like a dog, you know, might look like a wolf to me, because we all have different experiences in what we're looking on, you know. So that's why I say never just completely brush off somebody's story. You know, you hear Susan say, I saw a jackalope. You can't say, no, you didn't. You're basically calling her a liar. But what she saw, she saw. You know, I mean, that's just how it works. That's just how it is. Unless you can prove somebody is being dishonest, and there's ways to do that, I prefer to take somebody at their word. And if I'm mistaken, then I'm mistaken. I'll take that. Right? But unless you prove to me that you don't know what you're talking about or that you're dishonest, I'm not going to call you a liar. It's just that simple. You know, you may be mistaken. You may be a misidentification. That doesn't mean you're a liar. That means you're mistaken. You know, so that's one of those things that I really bothers me when you get involved in this, is people are so quick to just say, you know, they're hoaxing or they're lying. I get that a lot with research into Black Panthers. You know, I'm into a lot of different mountain lion sites and puma sites and all this. And it's amazing how many people will get on there and say, hey, I've seen one. and they are viciously attacked. Viciously attacked, telling them they're either liars, or they don't understand what a house cat looks like, or they saw a black coyote. And that's just absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. It's just like people saying, you know, I saw a Bigfoot take 3 steps across the road in front of me, and somebody goes, nah, you just saw a big bear. Like really? Come on. So always be careful. And that's why I like to research all this stuff. I haven't looked at Jackalope in years, but it's kind of fun bringing some of this stuff out. And some of you have never heard of it, so that's fun. And you can kind of get a background and know what's going on. And that's one of the reasons why I do some of the stuff on this show, is to help you guys in your own research, your own ideas, and how to maybe just kind of open up your thinking a little bit. I always tell people it's great to have an open mind. You have to have an open mind, but don't have it so open your brain falls out, right? But at the same time, keep an open mind, because this world is full of mystery and unknown and just things we have no clue about. And I am glad for that. I would hate to live in a world that was so complete, cut and dry, that there was no, there was no mystery to it. That would just suck. Susan, I appreciate what you are saying so much. This is why people don't tell anyone when they... Absolutely. This is why people don't tell other people. That's exactly it. The attacks that they get. And it's funny, going back to the Black Panther example. People go on there and say, well, mountain lions and cougars can't be black. And I go, absolutely they can't. It's a genetic impossibility for them to be melanistic. They do not carry the gene that causes that is mutated to make them melanistic. And they go, so therefore they can't exist. I said, no. What that means is what people are seeing is not a black mountain lion. That's all that means. That means it's something else they're seeing. Right? I mean, it doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. There can't be a black puma, therefore nobody sees a black large cat. And I think that's ridiculous. That's ludicrous. Any other comments, question, guys? What do you think about this anomalous animal thing? I'm trying to come up with kind of different categories that I can pull out and then do research on and just kind of make it a little fun. Anomalous animals I thought was a good category to go through. Just looking at the comments here. Abnormal investigations, that is why people don't talk, because they don't want to be criticized or even attacked. Absolutely. This is so weird. I drew a Black Panther in grade school in the 70s. Wasn't a biggie. Yeah, what's funny, Amy? In my research with Black Panthers, almost everybody that I've talked to that have seen one didn't know Black Panthers weren't supposed to be around. They didn't know it. Nobody told them it was impossible. I was talking to a guy up in Cosby, Tennessee, where I was living at before I came down here to Florida for a bit. And this happened, maybe a mile from where I was staying at up there. And he said he had come off a trailhead and just got into his car and was pulling out of the parking lot area. And he had one run up onto the road in front of him, and then get scared for the car because, he was gunning it to get on the road, and it turned around and ran back. And he had absolutely no doubt what he saw. And when I told him how crazy it was, because, like, they're not supposed to exist, he's like, well, I've heard about them my whole life. What do you mean they're not supposed to exist? They just know, they don't know. And I think that's one of the cool things about it. You can educate people, you can talk to them, and you can hear their stories. Up there in Sevier County, in that whole area up there, I've gotten many reports of the Black Panthers. I had one young lady tell me about how when she would stay at her grandma's house in the summers, they were right along the Little Pigeon River up there, and she'd see a family of them. And she'd see them walking along the river, And she said when the weeds were high, sometimes all you could see is their tails, flickering around, or the mom's ears. And according to her, the local wildlife officials knew about it. They said they actually tranked one and tagged it. And she was talking to the young gentleman about it, the guy that did it. And then apparently, wasn't too much longer, he got transferred out west somewhere. Susan F., I didn't know they weren't supposed to exist. Well, here's the thing with Black Panthers. Now, I did a show on it a while back. We had researcher Judith Hensley, who's a friend of mine and author. She has about 4 books, I think, about Black Panther sightings in Appalachia. I just totally lost my train of thought there. Yeah, what's interesting about it, again, is a lot of people say they didn't know they were supposed to exist. So in the wild, there's 2 large cats that present with the melanistic gene that would make them Black Panthers, right? That is going to be the leopard in Asia or the jaguar in South America. Those are the only 2 that would present as a Black Panther. The cougar, the American cougar, Eastern cougar, any one of the mountain lions / cougar / puma / whatever you want to call them, they do not carry the gene to be melanistic. Now, they do carry the gene to be leucistic, which is white, not albino, but there's a white phase that some cats can go through, and they do carry the gene for that can be mutated. And last week when I was bored, I did a research on it because I was kind of going, well, if they can be white, why can't they be black? And it was just 2 totally separate gene codings and mutations that cause them. So that's why. Abnormal, hey man, thanks for popping in. I don't get to catch your show very often. Abnormal Investigations. He does have a YouTube channel. If you guys want, check it out. I don't do a lot of other YouTube channels just because I don't really feel like it a whole lot with my health issues. But I know he's got a popular one. He does a lot of boots on the ground. So throw that out there for Abnormal Investigations. If you guys remember Jessie, she's the one from out in Wisconsin that we had on the show. She's a good friend with Abnormal there. So I'm glad Jessie pointed you in our direction there, buddy. She was a great girl. You guys remember she's the one that talked about the UFO over the water and had the house with all the hauntings in it. Had the house, the room that had the being in the corner sitting at her little play table when she was a youngin'. Good shows, check it out. Amy, that's right. If it can be all white, why not all black? And that was my thought on it. I had come across news that a white one had been filmed in Brazil, and that kind of piqued my interest. So I pulled up some genetic documents and the reasons here to that and all this kind of stuff. And it's a completely different gene and a completely different mutation that happens between the black and the white. And the panthers, the mountain lions that we have here in the United States, do not even have the gene that would need it to be mutated to be black. And that's why it's a genetic impossibility to have a melanistic mountain lion. So I thought that it's absolutely fascinating. That's why it's one of my favorite creatures to research. Any other questions, guys? Anything else going on? Next week, I have a guest lined up. It's been a little while since we've had a guest. I'm pretty excited. I'm not going to tell you who he is, but he's a Bigfooter. Mostly Bigfoot, but I know he touches a couple of other things where he's at. There's a lot of crazy phenomenon that happens in his neck of the woods in Appalachia. And I also want to put out there, I've been watching this documentary. It's not really a documentary, it's a season documentary. I don't know what they call those, called Hellier. And it's absolutely fascinating. It started off on one point, and then as what happens when you research, you find your rabbit holes and you go down those rabbit holes. And what they thought were looking for is completely switched to something else. So I suggest you check it out. I got it on Amazon Prime. I actually reached out to the main researcher on there to see if I could get him to come on the show to talk about it. So we'll see. But I'd recommend it. It does have some strong language in it, so I'll warn you of that. It does delve into paranormal and like psychic stuff that has tarot readings. So if you're not comfortable with that, then that's okay. I don't necessarily believe in all that kind of stuff, but I always find it fascinating how they apply it to different, paranormal applications and research. And I think that's one thing that needs to be done. Latro, you've seen Hellier. Wow. So you know what I'm talking about. Don't give it away. I thought it was fascinating because it's all about being East Kentucky. And as y'all know, Jennifer here in the audience, if she's still awake, lives up in East Kentucky, not that far away from this place. They kind of center around Pikeville, and we've been to Pikeville. So, little twisted, drink orange juice. The problem that I'm having isn't a cold. I had some post-nasal drip going on, and that makes me cough, which affects my heart, so I get weak and stuff with my heart there. The main problem I started having just this yesterday and today was just stomach issues. And so just kind of dealing with that, and that just drains you, trying to stay hydrated on top of that. Latro, can a jackalope fit down a rabbit hole? Well, they went down our rabbit hole, didn't they? That'd be something to see. Susan F., what is Hellier? Hellier is a town in Kentucky that kind of started off this whole investigation thing. So that's why it's called Hellier. It's just a town in East Kentucky. All right, everybody. Sorry to cut it a little short, but like we said, did what we could. It was kind of a sloppy deal. I wanted to get into more of the lore of the jackalope and other animals that were like it and in the pop culture and stuff, but we got what we got. At least I was able to put one out for you guys. I hope you all have a fantastic week. Feel better soon. I hope so. I'm trying to. If I could just get some good, solid sleep, I think that would help. But I have not been able to get more than a couple hours sleep at a time almost this whole week. So that's been kind of a struggle. But you guys have a fantastic week. We will see you next week with our guest. As Grizzly would say, coast to coast around the world. Everybody have a fantastic night. Be safe, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with me tonight. We will see you all next week. As I put on an outro for us, we'll do the one that I love with the clips from Jason. You guys have a good one.
It's a grizzly.
Should we get out of here?
No. We're gonna watch and listen.
Action.
It's a grizzly.
Oh, shit, should we run?
No.
Action.
It's a grizzly.
Oh, shit, should we run?
Okay. It's a grizzly.
Are you sure it's not chipmunk? Action. No, I'm out of here. Action.
It's a grizzly.
I'm out of here.
Huh. Maybe it is a chipmunk. It's a grizzly.
Oh, are we gonna die?
I don't know. We're just going to sit here and listen and watch.
Let's get out of here, maybe.
Fall!